Lesson 77 is about percents greater than 100. And our first question says, 210% of 50 is what number? So remember of means to multiply, and is means equal to, so we can take this word sentence or word question and put it into an algebraic question or equation. 210% of 50 is what number? Now in order to solve this one, well, 210%, that's the same thing as 210 over 100, because percents are always out of 100, times 50 over 1 will tell us what our number is. Now this is a nice one because we can simplify before we multiply. 50 is half of 100, so instead of writing 50 over 100, we can write 1 over 2. Now we can find our answer. Our answer, 210 times 1, well, that's going to be equal to 210. And 210 over 2, well, look, we could have actually simplified more, because half of 210, that's 105. And we've got our answer. 105 must be equal to Wn. Now notice, when we simplified before we multiplied, we could have gone further. We could have said, well, 210, if we take half of 210, that's 105. That would have been over 1, and we would have gone straight to our answer. If you didn't catch that, that's fine, because you could always cut 210 in half to get your answer of 105. Let's look at our next example. What percent of 40 is 60? Well, in this problem, what percent of 40 is 60? Since 60 is bigger than 40, well, we must have some percent that's greater than 100. Let's see what we get. What percent of 40 is 60? So of means multiply, is means equal to. We want to undo multiplication of 40. So in order to undo multiplication, we're going to divide. And we're going to divide by 40, because that's what we want to undo. 40 divided by 40. That's the same as 1 over 1. And 60 divided by 40, well, that's going to tell us what WP is. So WP times 1, we don't need to write that, is equal to 60 over 40. Now we know 60 over 40 is the same thing as 6 over 4, which must be the same thing as 3 over 2 when we cut both numbers in half. And 3 over 2 as a mixed number is just 1 and 1/2. So our question said what percent? Well, 1 and 1/2, that must be equal to 150%. Because 1 and 1/2 is greater than 1, so our percent must be greater than 100. We've got our answer. We've got one more example. Jane is mad because today's candy costs 120% of what they did 2 years ago. It should be today's candy. What does a piece of candy that was 60 cents 2 years ago cost today? Work the problem and then draw a diagram of the problem. Now remember, since this problem has more than one sentence, you don't need to write it in your notes. What you could write in your notes is example 3, just like that. And you could always come back to this page if you had a question about what the original problem was. So today's candy costs 120% of what it did 2 years ago. What does a piece of candy that was 60 cents 2 years ago cost today? So it says today's candy cost 120% of what it did 2 years ago. So today's candy, T, is equal to 120% of the old cost. And we'll put O, and we'll just write out old, of the old cost. So what does a piece of candy that was 60 cents 2 years ago cost today? So that's the old price. So today, T is equal to 120% times 60 cents. Now 120% could be written as 120 over 100, but since we have a decimal here, we could also write 120% as 1.2. So we could say 1.2 times 0.60 is going to get us our answer of what today's price will be. Let's work that out. 1.2 times 0.60, we'll put our 0 in here. Let's erase so it looks a little bit neater. Times 0.60. Well, we've got 0 as a placeholder, and we'll start with 6 times 2. That's 12, and we carry our 1. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. We've got to move our decimal over once, twice, 3 times in our answer, so we've got it. 0.72. So today's cost for a piece of candy that used to be 60 cents is now 72 cents. That makes sense because it said the price went up because it's now 120% of what it was 2 years ago. We've got our answer. We could go ahead and box it, and then we can move on to our next question. Our lesson practice will be on page 244. Make sure you've got your notes complete, and I'll see you during our next class.